And I'm going to switch cameras. So I've moved the camera right back this time. My God. Because I want to do some stuff up on the feet. So yeah, I was just checking that I'd fit in the screen. Otherwise, you know, you get the head chopped off, which is no good. It's not very professional. So it's right back to the wall. So just let me know if there's a problem with hearing, okay? And yeah, we're going to begin. So actually, we're going to start in child's pose. I'm really right to the wall here. Okay, so I want you to come into child's pose, and it's going to be a little bit more like what we could say, like movement-based class. I would say I was looking for kind of, it's like here it's the spring. Okay, we've just had 2 weeks of really wet, unusually wet weather where I was on retreat as well here in the center, kind of like a bit locked in actually, and with 14, there were 14 of us on the retreat. But there's also a sense that everything's starting to move. So I wanted to do that. I mean, we're not going to be doing like a really full-on standing class. It's going to be some standing poses, which are kind of more dramatic movements, we could say. But some strengthening work as well for the legs in the second part, okay? But we're going to start off quite gently, relatively speaking. So I'd like to come into child's pose and rest your head. So we're going to tune in really with the floor. If being child's pose is not comfortable, just come into sitting. I've just like drunk a cup of tea, so yeah, I'm going to sit upright, but feel free to come into child's pose, okay? So we're going to take a moment to build our mindfulness. So we're remembering that this practice, the way that we're teaching it, is very much from an awareness place. So from the mindfulness practice. So we've drawn out from Satipatthana, which is the basis for mindfulness teaching from the Buddhist tradition. We've drawn out 5 aspects, which I've talked about, or we've talked about almost every week now. And they do form like the 5 kind of key, or the 5 keys to mindfulness practice in the way that Bodhiyoga, well, basically Sadhguru and I teach. I mean, as yoga teachers, of course, you're completely free to teach how you want. But this is how we've chosen to focus it. So the first key, or the first aspect of awareness here, is the body. So we'll take the whole body into account. So I want you to feel your body supported on the floor. And being aware of this relatively simple pose, child's pose, Balasana. Feeling the contact with the floor. So now we're coming to the second aspect, which is like specific sensations. So I can feel my front ankle and shin in contact with the mat, contact with the floor. If I'm in child's pose, I feel the forehead. I can feel the belly against the thighs. And also you can tune in with any like areas of tension or pain, discomfort. This is important, that if you're going to take that into account when you're working through the practice, through the sequence. So we're not aiming to force our body in any way, okay? It's more like gently guiding it through the sequence. Stimulating, we could say stimulating, moving, mobilizing. So specific sensations, the second aspect of body awareness. And then we'll come into the breath. We'll come into the breath. So I'm not doing these in any particular order. So feeling the breath for a few moments as an anchor. So one of the benefits of this pose is you can feel the breath moving against the thighs. Possible. And then coming into the fourth aspect, which in this case is going to be the emotions. This is the whole emotional field. So the way that I quite like to go into this in my own practice is just to ask a question: how am I? And open up my, as it were, in the privacy of my own heart mind. I open up to recognizing what's happening. So we can talk about mindfulness as recognizing, remembering, recollecting. In this case, it's like acknowledging or recognizing what's happening on an emotional level. So yeah, the springtime, a lot of movement, all sorts of things. Some people can get up, some people it doesn't affect at all. And then fifthly, we're going to come into this aspect that we call anitya, which is change or transformation. So I want you to just recognize for a moment that your experience is not fixed, it's not static, it's changing. So even though you might notice there's kind of knots of tension in the body or a particular mood, we can also begin to recognize that these are not fixed. They're not, as it were, permanent structures or permanent features to our experience. They're more like changing tendencies. Okay. So connecting again with the breath. So there's sort of 5 aspects. I've changed the order around there, but you can come back into those, or we will come back into these over the course of the session. So on an inhale, I want you to just swing or slide the hands forwards. Come into Hasta Balasana, so the arms long. Inhale again. Come into all fours, and then you can slightly separate your knees and shins so they're about hip width. And we're going to start with a very simple movement, which is cat-cow. So as you exhale, you draw in the belly slightly and roll the pelvis back and look back. And on an inhale, you can tuck the toes under or have the feet, top of the feet on the floor. We look forwards. Okay, so it's a very simple spinal mobilization. Exhaling, drawing through the center line, drawing the belly in. I'm looking for a smooth movement that involves the whole spine. So it's not just the pelvis rocking backwards and forwards, although that is part of it, but it's also the thoracic spine and the neck spine involved. Sometimes called 6-point pose, Satangasana. You got hands, knees, feet. Satangulola. One of my teachers used to call these like mini movements, ulolas, which I quite like. It just means wave in Sanskrit, as far as I understand. Ulola, so it's like a wave-like movement, binary movement between 2 positions. Similar to the idea of vinyasa, of moving with the breath. So we're just gently moving with the breath, no, not rushing and not slowing down. Okay. Next time we come into a neutral spine, I want you to lift up into dog pose. And we'll just explore our way into this. So start off with the knees bent and heels lifted. The way we teach this is to line the ears up with the upper arms. We're not letting the head hang here. Once you've got that, you start to warm into that. You can allow your legs to straighten, the heels to drop. This is a sort of classic dog shape. So we also, I think something that's quite interesting here that Sarata teaches, which is taking the weight towards the ring finger, that's the 4th finger, and the little finger, rather than trying to push strongly down into the index and thumb. So we do spread the hand, and you do maintain contact. Of course, the whole hand, but the weight's going towards the outer hand, okay? Inhale, Come into all fours or 6-point pose. Exhale, drop back for a moment into child's pose. You can rest your forehead down again, maybe onto the hands. Take a breath there. Breathing. Inhale, the arms slide forwards. Exhale. Inhale into all fours. So we're going to open, because I'm going to move into the front thigh. I want you to lengthen your left leg back. Actually, let's just do a little warm up. As you exhale, draw your knee towards your head. As you inhale, project back the same leg. Okay, so we'll just do one side 3 or 4 times. Exhale. Folding in, inhale. Opening out. And repeat 3 or 4 times. The pelvis more or less level. And release down. Switch sides. So I'm preferring to tuck the toes under here, okay? So as you exhale, draw the opposite knee in. Inhale, reach back. Lifting the chest away from the floor as you inhale. Exhale, coming into the cow shape, but it's the cat shape. But with the knee lifting. Again, grounding the whole hand. Exhale, gathering in. Inhale, reaching out. And release down. Back into all fours. So for this, for this next move, I do suggest you tuck the toes under. I guess there's a sense of stability. And then we're going to reach the left leg back. This is quite interesting balance. And bend the left leg. And then we're going to reach for the left leg with the right hand. So you try and take hold of the foot or the ankle or the shin. And then you gently push the left shin away from you. So we come into, the obvious thing here is a thigh stretch. And it's weight bearing on the left hand. Obviously, we're not going to try and lift the left hand off the floor. As one might imagine. And then release. And tucking the left toes under, reach back with the right leg. So it's the opposite hand. So I'm reaching now back with the left hand. So if you can't reach the foot, that's fine. You just go in that direction and play with reaching. But if you can make contact, hooking the fingertips, we gently push away from the floor with the right hand. So the left shoulder can roll back a bit. And push the right shin back. Okay, so it's a balancing, a bit like what do we call it? The bow pose. Okay, and release. Again, come down just briefly into child's pose. Rest for a few moments. Forehead resting down. If child's pose is not comfortable on the belly or just not a comfortable position, come into sitting on the feet. Breathing now. A little pause. And then once again, inhaling and coming into all fours. So this, I think for this, unless you've got like a comfy mat, or a softer carpet or something, I would put a brick underneath your left knee, okay? Or some padding. And then the right foot comes forward. So we're going to go for a long base. Okay, like a long base to open the groins, okay? And then from there, we're going to prop ourselves up. So I'm bringing my right forearm gently, or right hand resting on the right thigh, and my left hand is at my side. So this is a dynamic movement. So as we inhale, we swing the pelvis down and forwards, reach up and look up, coming into a warrior lunge. Exhale, release from the pose, lifting the pelvis. And we'll do this 4 or 5 times. Inhaling. Just go into your capacity. I know that this is quite intense for the groins and the hip flexors. So depending on where you're at, you'll go lower and, as it were, deeper into the pose. But if you're feeling a bit more protective or you want to take care of that area, then go for shorter stance and don't go for such a deep lunge. Okay, so just explore what your body can do. Again, it's a kind of ulola, and there's two positions. It's a binary movement. So you're coming up into a warrior lunge and then down, bringing the top arm down into like a preparatory position. Okay, good. And then release down and forwards, palms grounding, carefully moving your right leg back and move the gear across. Left. So just one detail that probably you won't see, even if you look really carefully, what I'm doing. So I'm lining my left foot with my left hip and my right foot with my right knee. So I'm like on tram lines, as we call these, which we look at quite a lot in the teacher training, but I'm lining basically the feet with the hips. Okay, so I'm slightly wide base, but I'm also a long base. And then we'll come up, bearing in mind that your right side might be different from the left. And then on the inhale, sweeping up, top arm. You can even reach back with that top arm to open the chest area, the shoulder area, using the left hand as a support and exploring without forcing, okay? So depending on your hip, you might want to go for a slightly shorter stance. And what I'm doing here is, as I come down, I'm propping myself up more on the forearm. As I inhale, sliding the left forearm across the knee, across the thigh. One more time. And then releasing. Palms down. From this position, carefully taking your left foot back, and we'll move straight into the dog pose, but through the preparatory dog, which is knees bent, heels high. And if you haven't done it this way before, do try lifting the ears in line with the upper arms, and do try taking weight towards the outer edge of the hand. Like, I've been so conditioned by like 10, 15 years of Iyengar yoga in the 90s that like the impulse is to ground the index finger base, which you do want to keep grounded. But it's interesting in terms of feeling the opening across the top of the shoulders to allow the weight to spread more across the outer hand. Okay, from there, inhale or force, and again, a brief pause into child's pose or just sitting back if you want to be in a more upright position. Closing the eyes for a moment, reconnecting with the body, so the overall body, whole body experience, and the heart. Checking in with your moods. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do, or at least attempt to do, a full sun salutation. So But we'll start from child's pose. Okay, so, but we will come up to standing in the course of the journey through the sun salutation. So I want you to inhale, extend your arms forwards. Exhale, inhale into all fours. And then an important movement in the way we do sun salutation is this. So you tuck the toes under. And then it's like we come through what's called 8-point pose. So you're gonna drop your chest towards the floor, but the chest doesn't actually touch the floor. It's like it's just hovering over. Elbows in, chin comes near the floor, the buttocks lift, and then you sweep through to what's called Bodhiyoga-11. So you're on the forearms. Take the gaze up, lengthen through the front of the body. Exhale, release down. Inhale all four. So I'll just take you through that again. Exhale back into child's pose, long arms. So this is an important transition. So we call this, well, it's all fours to 8-point pose, the Bodhiyoga-11, the cobra. So inhale into all fours, tucking the toes under, and then lowering the chest. So we're also tipping the pelvis forwards. Takes a little bit of practice. Keep the elbows in, chin forwards, and then release forwards and down into a gentle back bend, Bodhiyoga-11. Breathe there. Tops of the feet now grounded. And release. Okay, so that will appear in the sun salutation. Inhale. Come into all fours. And then we're going to come up onto our feet. Okay, so let's see how we get on with this. So having the thing with doing classes online is the screen and all that. You know, we're doing standing poses, but I thought we need to get on the feet at some point. I mean, it may well be that Sadat has done some stuff on the feet. I think he has, in fact. We talked about it the other day. So we're going to come to the front edge of the mat. So I'm not going to do these faster, just so we can make this doable. It's obviously that you haven't got the same cues as being in a room with other people. But come into Namaste. Again, I suggest the feet go onto the tram lines. So each foot is underneath each hip, so the feet separated. So it's called Surya Namaskar because we're saluting the sun or greeting the sun. And taking a few moments there. So the thumbs gently resting into the sternum, the chest. And then on an inhale, you drop your arms down, sweep the arms up, reach up, and even look back. Exhale, we fold forwards over the tops of the legs, bending the knees, touching the fingers down to the floor. Inhale, lift the chest away from the floor on the fingertips. Exhale, we're going to take the right leg back, coming into the low lunge for a moment. Just have a pause there so we all get in the same place. Exhale, take your left foot back and dip down through 8-point pose into Bodhiyoga-11. Lifting away from the floor. Exhale, release down. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, dog pose. So we took the right leg forward. So we're now going to take the right leg, we took the right leg back. Now right leg goes forwards, high lunge. So the left leg is long, straight. And then bring your back foot in. Left foot forwards. Exhale, fold towards your legs. And then coming up with a long spine. So lifting the head, lifting up. You can even reach up. And exhale, back into Namaste. So that's one side, one cycle on one side. Okay, so yeah, the coordination, the choreography can sometimes be a bit challenging. But we'll do it one more time on the left side, then Another round, okay? So inhale, arms go up, where you can drop the arms down, arms go up, reach back, exhale, bend the knees, fold into your legs, towards your legs, fingertips to the floor. Inhale, lift the gaze. Exhale, now the left foot back to low lunge. Can be on the fingertips. Breathe there. Exhale, right foot back. From all fours, toes tucked under, dipping through 8-point pose into Bhujangasana. So on the forearms, so it's a low back bend. I'm deliberately keeping it quite, as it were, contained. We're not doing the full cobra with the arms straight. Exhale, releasing to the floor. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, dog pose. Exploring dog pose, lining up the ears with the upper arms. Weight drifting towards the outer hand. Heels sinking. So now left foot went back, so left foot goes forwards, high lunge. And then right foot comes in. Exhale into your legs and sweep up. Long spine, gaze lifting, reach up. And back into Namaste. So it's like a collection of poses strung together for vinyasa. I'll lead it through, okay? Even though I'm not quite seeing the rhythm that you're following, but we'll do one side again on each side, okay? Inhale, dropping the arms down, sweeping them up and back. Exhale, folding to your legs. Inhale, gaze forwards, fingertips on the floor, bending knees. Exhale, right leg goes back, low lunge onto the fingertips. Exhale, left foot goes back and dip through 8-point pose into Bhujangasana. Broadening the chest there, separating the feet, tops of the feet grounded. Long front body. So this is stimulating for the spinal column, strengthening as well. Exhale, release down. Inhale, all fours. Exhale, dog pose. Inhale, right foot comes forwards, high lunge. Inhale, left foot forwards, exhale into your legs. Inhale, sweeping up, long spine. Hands back, arms back, namaste. Okay, last cycle on the left side. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, folding into your legs. Inhale, gaze forwards, bending knees. Exhale, left foot goes back, low lunge, long spine, onto the fingertips. Exhale, right foot back and ground the palms. Come through, 8-point pose into Bhujangasana. Supporting yourself on your forearms, like the Sphinx shape, but more active. Exhale, releasing down. Inhale, all fours. Dog pose. Step your left foot forwards, high lunge. Step your right foot forwards, fold into your legs. Inhale, bend the knees, long spine. So we're using the legs to lift up with strength. And exhale, namaste. And drop your arms to your side. So that might have been quite stimulating for the energy. So just try turning your palms forwards. I'll just show you what I'm doing. And gently spreading the fingers, palms forwards. So we're keeping that sense of opening in the upper chest. So that sequence can be quite stimulating for the upper back, where there's a bit of weight bearing going on. Breathing now. And as I was saying, bringing your feet about hip width, feeling the toes, tuning in with the specifics of the pose. So where can you feel your body specifically? Connecting with the breath. Okay, now we're gonna, basically move to the center of our mats, looking towards the long edge of your mat. Okay, and I'm gonna bring the hands onto the hips. And then step your feet wide. Okay, so we did this pose last week, but as a sitting pose. And the feet more or less parallel, but I want you to then bend your knees and tip forwards over the top of your thighs, thigh bone, over the head of the femur, and bring your fingertips to the floor. This is a classic shape, Prasarita Padottanasana. So we'll just be here for a moment in the flat back position. And actually, I've got a wall so close here. You can actually you could use the wall if you're in my position, so you can have the sitting bones back towards the wall, just to give a reference. But anyway, from there we're going to release down towards the floor and just see where we get to. Okay, you can start to straighten the legs as much as is possible. Let me just see what's going on. Yeah, that's it. So the upper body is relatively quiet, the neck is quiet, but the arms are or coming firm, toning. Okay, from there, inhaling, fingertips back underneath the shoulders and bringing your feet towards each other. It's like that zigzag movement, bending the knees, coming up, long spine. Bring your feet to parallel. And then orientate your palms forwards, growing your spine, bringing yourself into a sense of Tadasana mountain pose. So the shoulders over the hips over the ankles. But it's not static. You'll notice there's a gentle movement backwards and forwards to get your balance. Okay, once again, bringing the hands to the hips. So it's just a reference, hands to the hips, to take your elbows wide and keep a sense of breadth, broadness in your upper body. And then we'll walk the feet out again. And then I want us to turn, which I haven't thought about this. I'm turning my right leg out. I don't know how that looks to you. So you can mirror, that's fine. If mirroring is your left foot, just turn your left foot out. We're going to keep the pelvis towards the long edge of your mat, okay? And then just invite your feet to go a little bit further apart. Just explore going on a wider base. Take your right hand up, so it's your forward hand up, looking up for a moment. So we're opening the right side of the body. And then as we exhale, we bend the front leg and bring the forearm down. And we're trying to keep the pose in one plane. So in the sense that the upper body, the left shoulder rolls back and you're looking down towards your right foot. So this is called Salamba Vajrakonasana. Keeping the back leg straight. And from here, if you're okay with your balance, take your top arm up, straight up, to open across the upper body. And breathing there. So it depends on your neck. If it feels all right on your neck, there's a sense of lengthening through the neck and turning. And then you can look up at that top arm or top hand and breathe there. We're going to go to here. So this is challenging for the legs. and the right groin if you're doing your right side. So we're going to use the left hand to pull up, turn the feet forwards, as it were square, turn the opposite leg out. You can play with the distance between your feet, okay? Narrower base or shorter base, more stable, less challenging, longer base, more challenging. Okay, taking the left arm up, pelvis stays orientated towards the long edge of the mat, bending the left leg now as we prop ourselves. In Shalamba means prop or propped or supported. So just as in Salamba Shavangasana, supported shoulder stand. Salamba. So Salamba Bajvakonasana. I'm looking down. I'm checking that the knee is the weight feels okay as it goes through the knee into the foot. You want to keep the knee over the ankle, not beyond the ankle, even slightly behind the line of the ankle, just so that the weight is safe there, being dropped through the foot. And then take your top arm up and look up, if that's okay, on the neck. And then explore going for a wider base, a really quite open pose. The arm, top arm is firm, reaching up. Back leg is firm, reaching back. And you're opening and turning the chest towards the ceiling. Salamba Bajvakonasana. With an inhale, we draw ourselves back up. Again, bring our hands back in to the hips, just while they're resting on like the ledge of the pelvic crest. And take a pause there. Maybe just look out into the horizon and get a sense of broadening from between the shoulder blades to the elbows. Like if you want to be really precise, from the between the shoulder blades to the inner elbows, and then likewise across the chest to the outer elbows. Does that make sense? So a sense of breadth. Okay, now we're going to turn back to the first side, but this time we're going to keep the legs straight. So we're going to come into a version of triangle pose. So the right arm goes up, and then we're going to pivot over the head of the right leg, but keeping the legs straight. Okay, so this is more challenging. It's triangle pose. I suggest you do look down. So it's challenging on the pelvis. I mean, some sort of, what do you call them, anatomy technicians would say this is contra-intuitive in terms of the work in the pelvis. Okay. So then from there, taking your left arm up, both legs straight. So for me, yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for years now, but yeah, I find it to be more careful with my neck. I've dropped this thing of always looking up in these poses. So actually looking down towards your big toe, towards your toes, and then really lengthening from the pelvis through to the crown, or the pubic bone through to the throat area, really lengthening the front of the body, the back of the body. Feels better on the neck. Okay, but you can feel your legs working. Yeah, bending the front leg and pulling yourself up. Once again, hands to hips, taking a gaze to the horizon. It's a broad upper body, and turning to the opposite side. Left arm goes up, both legs straight. Just with these poses, these standing poses, it's like we're drawing big lines, okay? Big, powerful movements, legs straight, arm straight. Pivoting over the top of the head, of the femur, and looking down. So your hand will come towards the shin or towards the ankle. As I said, I suggest you keep your gaze down, explore lengthening from sacrum to the base of the skull, taking the top arm up, lengthening through the side body, breathing now. So both sides of the body long. This is a bit more challenging for the right side, like in an extension. Bending your front leg and bringing ourselves back up, turning the feet square forwards, hands to hips, and then walking your feet in, hip width. Coming into the last Tadasana, so the palms forwards. You can imagine like the image that comes to mind is like beaming energy out from the center of the palm forwards. Breathing now, so the chest open. Spine long. We'll close the eyes for a moment, reconnecting with the heart, mind. So it's the sense of the mood. Whatever's coming up, is we're going to recognize that. Whatever's coming up, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, whether it's a so-called negative emotion or positive emotion. So if you can recognize and see that, maybe give it a name, a label. Okay, from there, we're going to open the eyes and release down or to the floor, sit down basically, is rather release down. And yeah, I wanted to come back into this pose we did last week. So I need a bolster. I probably need more than a bolster for this. Good tightness in the inner groin. So we did this. I think we started the session last week. I mean, I really liked last week's sequence. So I wanted to bring a little bit of an echo of that sequence in. So coming into Upavista Konasana, lengthening the legs out and moving the buttock flesh slightly back. So you're coming towards the front edge of the sitting bones, and then the arms are going to sweep up. So we'll make the arms long, and you're reaching from the sitting bones to the fingertips and then tipping forwards and reaching forwards. Your hands coming down to the floor. And then allowing yourself to come forwards as much as your body allows. So I'm going to bring the floor up a little bit more with a brick, edge on brick. The hands can also come to the shins. That's quite a nice way, you could say, to do it. It's feels quite connected. But you can also bring your hands more forwards. It's like this floor is so cold. The warm weather is yet to arrive. So I'm just going to connect hands to the shins. What I do with this pose is just have a little bit of action in the legs, in the sense of keeping the feet in the perpendicular. So I'm not letting the feet roll out or roll in. Okay, so it just helps keep a sense of connection to what's going on in the pelvis. But you can explore the pose with more passive legs, completely passive legs. Your hips are going to be either naturally externally rotated, which is for most people that's how they are, or naturally inward rotated. It's more probably the case of how much are they naturally externally rotated. Some people are much more naturally externally rotated hips, others less. I have met one woman who had an internally rotated hip structure, which was quite strange. It meant that doing Virasana was just so easy. But this kind of thing was more challenging. Yeah, so it's generally externally rotated the hips from here. Okay, on an inhale, we come up. Okay, now I wanted to do this last week and I didn't. So we're going to do it now. So bring your knees in. This is more of needs a little bit of setting up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my mat slightly forwards towards the camera. And I'm going to have the bolster in front of me. And then I'm going to sit back on my feet. Okay. So I have done this with, well, some of you for sure. So this is, we call this the frog. So I'm going to take my knees now quite wide. So you definitely want padding under your knees. And you can even sit between your feet, okay, as much as that allows. And then what we do is we come up into all fours with the knee. You let your weight, the weight of your body slide into the inner knees. Hopefully that's making sense. It's a bit, it can be quite intense, huh? So the feet can come off the floor, and then I'm going to lower myself down. And that's it. So the feet can come off the floor. I wonder if I should show that. And I'm going to show that. You stay there. I'm just going to show it in a different angle, okay? So, just in case that wasn't clear, I think this will be more clear. So, you start sitting back on your feet. It's really a passive groin opener. Take the knees wide, and then you lower you come up into all fours and try to keep weight going back into the groins and rest the chest onto the support. Obviously, some people can go all the way to the floor. Your feet can be together, they can be separated, they can be floating or not floating. The main point of the pose is to work the inner groins, okay? So we'll take this pose for a couple of minutes, well, a bit longer. The question is what you do with your head. So you want to find a way of propping up your head like the chin so it's comfortable. And then we'll close the eyes for a moment and just take our attention into what's going on there. More sensitive, listening. We're working passively, so we're working with gravity. Connecting with your breath. And then when you're ready, I mean, we could stay longer there. I mean, that's one of those poses that you just play by ear, yeah? So to come out, bring your palms down. So you bring weight into your hands and you lift up, and then you bring your knees in one by one, yeah? Okay, I'm just gonna reset up my mat on the screen. And yes, we're going to come down onto the belly. This is more of a, so you can see, I'm going to change the camera a little bit because it feels like miles away. So hopefully you can see me. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so coming onto the belly, and then we're going to bring your forearms forward and rest the head onto the forearms, and then lift each leg and lengthen back. Okay, from there, the feet slightly separated. This is a 4-part movement. So as you inhale, you project your left leg back and lift it off the floor. Exhale, bend the knee. Inhale, project it back again and lifting, and exhale down. So I'll just show that again on the opposite. Now we switch side, okay? So right leg lifting, lengthening, exhale, bending, still lifted. Inhale, extending, still lifted. Exhale, now lowering down. And repeat on the opposite side, left, lengthening, exhale, inhale, extend, exhale down. So if you want to lift your head, that's also fine. I can breathe better actually with the head lifted. Inhale, exhale, bend, inhale, extend, alternating legs. This is like, again, it's a nulola, but it's 4 parts. Each movement is coordinated with a breath phase. So we inhale, lift, straight leg. Exhale, bend, still lifting. Inhale, extend, straight leg. Exhale, lower. And we'll just carry on 3 or 4 more cycles. Just see what's happening now. Yeah. So the important thing is to lift the thigh off the floor. So it's a mixture of hip flexor, strengthener, as well as mobile lengthening the muscles in the front of the thigh. Okay. Your pubic bone stays grounded, and try to keep the pelvis more or less level. Okay, so it's gonna come off. One side is gonna lift a bit as you lift the leg, but try to keep a sense of the front of the pelvis rooted. So it's quite a grounding, actually, this movement. Definitely orientated towards the legs, but it's also working the lower back muscles. So it's a movement that comes from Bodhiyoga, orientated towards strengthening around the knee joint, actually. Okay, then coming to rest in your own time and swing back into child's pose for a moment. Or if child's pose, as I said, is not working for you, then I had such a late lunch and then like a cup of tea is just too much. There's this habit in Spain of eating at 3 in the afternoon, which is too late, really. Okay. And then from there, yeah, coming into all 4 down to your belly again, and separate your feet a bit wider this time. So we're going to come into a classic. What's this called? Bhujangasana. Yeah, Shalabhasana. So this is a really useful pose, actually. So I want you to interlace your fingers and project the backs of the hands away from you, your thumbs down on towards your buttocks. And then we're going to lift everything off the floor. So like arms, chest, thighs, legs. And it's like you're engaging the whole of the back of the body. Pretty full on pose. Breathing now. And then release. Okay, we'll do it 2 or 3 times. So check that your pubic bone is down. There's a rootedness there when you're ready, just on your own time. So I'll let you hold that as long as you like. So it's definitely, it's like an on or off pose. So you're engaging, breathing now, take the gaze slightly forwards and down. You can look more strongly forwards, but be aware that you can extend strongly the neck when you do that. So if it doesn't feel good on your neck, look down. Breathing then the hands away from the body if it's possible. And release. In your own time. Okay, the arms come forwards again. rest the forehead down onto the hands. Try to release from the armpit area forward. So like the whole, like that tricep area is just quite long. Okay. And then we're going to work one leg at a time. So I want you to bring now your feet, your inner feet together, inner legs together. I'm going to work on what's called scorpion pose. This is not one of my favorite poses, but again, this is really useful, something that we bring into our like therapeutic yoga module. So what we're going to do is press the right foot down, but then the left leg lifts. So it might not lift that high. You just lift it and see what happens there. Okay. And then release down. Take a pause to the inner feet together. So pressing now the left leg down and lifting the right leg. So you can breathe in the pose, that's fine. It's kind of obligatory, yeah? Keep breathing. But the breath is probably going to be shorter and shallower. Okay, then release. Take a pause and switch back to the first side. So one leg is gently pressing down, the other is gently lifting. Breathing there. So you could change the position if you prefer to have the chin down onto the floor, that's okay. And release. So it's strong because we're having to keep the leg there under our own, as it were, strength. So come back to the second side. So one leg gently pressing down, the other leg gently pressing up. And release. Okay, then we're going to try one last variation of that. So I'm just going to show on the screen actually, because you just with what happens with the hands. So the hands interlace, and the idea is you bring them around the front of the body. So if you can imagine lying on your hands, that's what you're going to do. You bring them underneath the front of the pelvis, or even like as it were between the legs. So when you're on the floor, you interlace your fingers, and that way you prop up the front of your hip in a sense, okay? And you'll suddenly find that the pose, this gives you a sort of certain advantage. So your chin can come forwards and then both legs go up together, okay? So we lift up. Breathing there. And release. If that doesn't work for you, you could just explore making gentle fists under each thigh. That might help, or under each hip bone. That's another way of doing it. Okay, so we'll do one more time. So releasing the neck, both legs lifting together. So it may help to have the forehead down. Strong work for the back of the body, particularly the lower section of the body. Lifting the legs as much as possible, which might not be very much, and then release down. Okay, from there, we're just going to turn onto our backs, coming into semi-supine. That's scorpion pose, a couple of approaches. One with both legs with the hands, or one leg at a time. So from there, I'd like to bring one hand onto each knee. Very gentle movement to start to wind down. So as you exhale, bring your knees towards you. As you inhale, float the knees away. And we'll do that 6 or 8 times. Exhale. Float the knees towards you. Inhale away. Connecting again with the breath. Connecting with body experience, but also being any specific aspects of the physical experience, specific sensations we might have woken up. Being aware of the mood, and then being aware of this quality of change. Okay, so it can be quite obvious when we do these kind of practices that our mood shifts, our body shifts. We have a different experience of ourselves. Okay, from there, floating the feet to the floor for a moment. And what I'd like you to do, I mean, you could, let's do it this way, simplest way. So you could use a wall, but we're going to bring the bolster again, or whatever, like a few bricks. You can also use 3 or 4 bricks underneath the top of the sacrum. Okay, so it's not digging into the spine, the lumbar spine. And then we're going to take the legs up to the vertical. So it's a very gentle inverted pose. Depending on your energy, you might want to rest the legs into a wall. Okay, but you need to be really close to the wall. So you rest the backs of the legs into the wall. And then we're going to pee here for a minute or two. Okay, so if you've got your legs freestanding, looking to balance them with a minimum amount of effort over the hips. They might not even be completely straight, that's fine. So they don't need to be like rigid, hard legs. It's more like you're looking to get them floating up effortlessly over the hip joint. So it should feel quite pleasant, even sense of release around L5. The last lumbar, or the last lumbar joints into the sacrum. It should feel like it creates a bit of space in that area, this pose. If you've got, as it were, the fulcrum, so you've got like the kind of balance point more towards the top of the sacrum. If you've got it towards the tailbone, it won't feel pleasant on that area. Okay, I feel like it's kind of compressing it. So try to prop up the edge of the iliac crest, the edge of the pelvic crest, that point between the last lumbar and the top of the sacrum. So a bolster is really helpful for that. If you're with the bricks, where you'd support the whole of the back of the pelvis. And then the chest, I'm just very lightly opening it. I'm not going to go, we did look at this a couple of weeks ago. We did a sequence over a chair where we emphasize much more opening of the chest. But here it's just a very gentle opening now. And checking the neck is free. So one of the advantages of teaching this, which I use a lot in my classes, is it's relatively safe inversion pose. So you're not asking anything of the upper body and shoulders and neck, which can be a really vulnerable area for some students. And you're not asking too much of the body at all. In fact, it's fairly restful. It's almost more like Viparita Karani, which is inverted resting pose. Although weirdly, traditionally, that is depicted as hanging upside down from a tree from the feet, which is quite bizarre. Tantric yoga tradition. Viparita means upside down. Karani means resting place. Again, really useful pose, can help to reduce tiredness in the legs or just relief, especially if you've been on your feet a lot. And then from there, we're going to bend one leg. So I suggest you come down 1 foot at a time. So there's no excessive loading on the lumbar. And then take your support out. Now, I'm going to end with meditation. I know that is probably a bit outrageous if you haven't done this class before, but I'm just going to assume that you do Shavasana, you do the relaxation pose after the class, okay? So what I'd like us to do is to set ourselves up to be comfortable for a few minutes, 5 minutes or so really, but you can sit on longer if you want to. Make sure you're going to be warm enough, because we'll do a straight transition from meditation pose into Shavasana, okay? But I'm not gonna lead Shavasana. In fact, I'm not even gonna be there. So I'll just say you can go there. So I'm not gonna even check up that you've done it. But I would recommend doing at least 2 minutes, ideally longer Shavasana, okay? But I'd like us to come into sitting, just so we sit together with the last few minutes of the shared session. So I'm going to use the gear that I've got here. So yeah, we could do more. We could do more of everything, but we're keeping the session to 75 minutes, more or less. So I'd like you to come into a supported seated position. So the advantage of doing before you meditate is that you feel much more, generally speaking, you feel much more alive to your body. Okay, so the body is a really good basis for meditating. In fact, it's one of the ideal bases for meditating. So I'd like to draw your attention inwards. You can close the eyes, towards your spinal column, and have a sense of how the spinal column is. You may feel that we've moved the energy, or maybe overworked or stimulated. Energized, checking with your own which spine are more conscious, if you like, which bits do you notice more than others. Well, there's a sense of drawing the spine up through the vertical axis, and then feeling the base of the pose, the sitting bones and the shins, the knees, ankles. And then finding a position for your hands. You can rest them on the lap. You've got a blanket there, or rest them on the thighs. So exploring the whole body, exploring specific sensations. You can follow your own intuition here. Let your attention go to areas of body which are calling your attention, which are apparent. And then once again, coming into the breath. The breath and the body form part of the first Satipatthana. And then we can refine or explore further mindfulness of the sensations. So are they pleasant, unpleasant, or is it a mixture? Some areas of the body might have a sense of pleasure arising, but other areas maybe there's discomfort or unpleasant sensations. And then moving into sense of your moods, the heart mind. You ask yourself, how am I? And then finally, being aware of this quality of flux or change, anitya, aware that your experience is constantly shifting, changing, as within is without the body, as it were, on the outside, with the inside. The invitation with this recognizing anitya or impermanence is to let go. If nothing is fixed, to use that kind of it's like a colloquialism, like go with the flow. Sounds terrible, but there is something in that. Your experiences change, so allowing it to unfold. But the sense of being present. So we're not just going with the flow in the sense of whatever whim and fancy take us off, or a sense of letting your experience unfold, recognizing what's happening. So there is a quality of presence, discipline, awareness. And we'll end this meditation, the brief meditation, gently connecting with the quality of kindness or gentleness, it's a warmth towards your own body, also to those of us here in this session, this virtual session, but also those of you that are around you in your house or in your rooms, in your street, or your village, or your town, city. We all can recognize the need for quality of gentleness, kindness, patience, warmth. So I'm going to suggest you stay sitting for a little bit longer, but do then come down to resting on the floor, just even if it's just for a minute or two. before moving on to the next activity. It's quite easy to kind of leap off and do something, but see if you can just hold the space. There is a kind of discipline in that for a few minutes until hour. You can sit on, lie down. So I wish you all well, and next week, the next 2 weeks, next 2 sessions, Salata will lead. Okay.